Good evening. I'd like to call the City Council, City of Waterville, for Monday, January 22nd, 2024 to order. I'd ask Vice Mayor Mary Duncan to please lead us in the prayer.
Loving God, as we come together tonight for the City of Waterville, we pause to ask you to be with us and guide our way. May your spirit of peace surround all we say and do this evening. We ask for your strength to do what is best for the good of Waterville. Lord God, as servants of your people, we pray that you grant us a share of your wisdom. Amen.
All rise, and I would ask Councilmember John Rosick to please lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And I'd ask the clerk to lead us in the roll call.
Mrs. Duncan?
Here.
Mr. Rouse?
Here.
Mr. Garber?
Here.
Mayor Pedro?
Here.
Mr. Wagner?
Here.
Mr. Rosick?
Here.
Mr. Bruno?
Here.
Thank you. Tonight we have a special presentation by the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, and I'm going to both let John Golkenauer make a comment, but maybe before that, I know that Councilmember Todd Borowski had raised this question recently, so Todd?
Thank you. Yeah, I've talked to a lot of neighbors, and there's been some concerns about some of the way the hunters have been hunting the property behind the houses on River Road. So I talked to Joe, and I know there's a lot of gray areas. I thought it would be a good idea to invite ODNR to come, maybe give the presentation. And Mayor, I do apologize. I know there's going to be questions from some of the neighbors, and I forgot to have them fill out a form. So is it okay to have them ask a couple questions afterward, or?
Certainly.
Okay.
If you
Yep.
would just, when it's time to go to the microphone, give your name and address, but we'll walk through that, not a
Yep.
problem.
So Joe and John, of course, followed up, and thank you guys for showing up. I know there's going to be a lot of great questions tonight. I know I have questions in regards to, I've learned so much about how the fish, when they're netted in Canada, they do the limits in Ohio, and they count the eggs for the walleye, you know, and it could go back 4 years. There's a ton of different zones that I learned, and it's kind of crazy how those zone A and everything is set up in the back. I know neighbors have found gill nets, which I haven't heard that for ages. A gill net, I'm like, a gill net? Like the fish go in and they catch? There's been some concern about trapping back there as well. And I did want to mention, I know Black Swamp here in Waterville that sells ammunition. The regulations change every year, and they typically, when the season for whatever it is that people are hunting, they put the regulations out there, and it's a lot of times it's very hard, not only for ODNR, which maybe I'm wrong to keep up with, but I know probably our police department, because they change pretty often. But I thought you guys could come and explain a lot of stuff going on, and maybe give ease the mind of a few neighbors on what's going on. So thank you.
Thank you. Todd, I'd ask John Golkenauer anything to add to that, please?
No, Mayor, I don't have anything to add. I believe Mr. Zintek's here tonight. Right, you want to
Come to the microphone. While he's walking up, I want you to know, citizens of Waterville, I had the pleasure to meet these gentlemen last summer at Fish Ohio with Governor Ohio, and you were in my boat. I think you caught the biggest fish and the most fish. I'm not sure.
That's not how I remember.
Mr. Zintek, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, my name is Josh Zentek. I'm the Wildlife Officer Supervisor for Unit B up here in Northwest Ohio. That includes Fulton, Lucas, Wood, Sandusky, Ottawa, and Erie counties. Officer Mike Ulrich is the officer assigned here in Lucas County. He was the officer in Lucas County, then transferred to Fulton County. Now he's back in Lucas County. So he's the local officer here in the county, where a lot of people reach out to him and with questions and that sort of thing. So he's kind of the go-to person here for Lucas County. Knows probably the river a lot better than I know it, jurisdictions, counties where, you know, Wood and Lucas County meet there. So we kind of just want to open it up. I mean, more or less, you know, questions that you guys may have coming up, and hopefully, I mean, there's a lot of different things that go on the river, such as fishing, waterfowl, hunting, deer hunting. So with those questions, I guess, you know, hopefully we can answer. We don't have a formal presentation per se. Kind of just gonna have you guys ask questions, and hopefully we can answer those questions. If we're unable to answer those questions, then you know, we'll get you the answers at a later date. That way we can provide you guys all with accurate information to the best that we can figure things out. So.
Officer Zintek, one thing, if you would, just state your address for our recordings, please.
Yep.
Your address.
Address in Findlay, my office address is 952 Lima Avenue, Findlay, Ohio.
Okay.
And that's where.
Could you speak into the microphone, Josh?
Yes,
Sorry,
sir.
but
Yep,
for the-
I'm sorry.
For the folks at home, they won't be able to hear you.
I'm all good. That's more than fine.
So I don't, Joe, did you happen to forward them the letter from one of the citizens with the questions about hunting the banks and so forth? Okay, okay.
Yeah, so I guess is that where you would like to start some of those questions?
So I think the best thing to do, talking to a lot of the neighbors and their concerns about hunting, maybe give us a little bit better than a 30,000 foot overview of, you know, what are the rules and regulations? Can people walk on the land? Can they trap? Are they allowed to hunt on the park, the metro parks on the island across, you know, and, you know, if people do see something going on, you know, what's their protocol? Should they call you guys? Should they call Joe? I think that's a good place to start.
Yeah, yeah, and the big thing is kind of start at Missionary Island. Missionary Island is the island out in front of Farnsworth Metro Park. That island is owned by the Division of Wildlife by the state of Ohio. It is open for public hunting. That island actually falls into the township there. So it's in Lucas County, but it falls in Waterville Township. And that is open for hunting, you know, archery hunting, gun hunting during deer gun seasons when they're in place, waterfowl hunting. Of course, that is on the island there itself. So we do allow that. There are, you know, the folks have to abide by the state regulations of whatever game they're hunting out there, but they're allowed to go out there by boat and hunt that island. So that's kind of what goes on there. I can't recall exactly what year that island was purchased by the Division of Wildlife, but we've owned it for many years.
Does that island, do they issue so many tags for the deer just for that island, or is it open season?
Yeah, it's basically they have to follow the county bag limit.
Okay.
So since it's in Lucas County, they have to follow the Lucas County deer bag limit, which would be 4 deer that could legally be harvested in Lucas County. But the flip side of that is they're only allowed to harvest 1 antlerless deer on state property. So in theory, they could really only harvest 2 deer, an antlered deer and an antlerless deer out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then trapping, is trapping allowed?
Trapping would be permitted. Obviously, there's certain regulations of what they legally can be using as far as trapping goes, the different methods, but it is legal to be out there trapping as well.
How about on the shore of the banks of the river and in city limits?
So when we come downstream, once we get into the city limits of Waterville, then that's where any types of regulations that the city municipality has, the hunter, trapper, they have to follow the local ordinances on dealing with hunting, which, you know, most cities don't allow hunting inside city limits, so that's where, you know, those regulations would apply. We don't have any authority or jurisdiction over the local ordinances. That's going to be strictly, you know, the local ordinance that has to be followed.
So, well, that kind of is a good segue into my next question. City limits, where do city limits, you know, end? Because I know some people own property into the river, right? Yeah.
Right. And that's where, you know, we go back to deeds and look at deeds and try to figure that out. we use the auditor's website for the most part. That's
Okay.
what we go off of when we look at municipalities on their boundaries and where they're at. I don't know if we have a definitive line there in the river. I mean, I think it's always been the interurban bridge has kind of been the line, you know, anything downriver of the interurban bridge is considered inside the city of Waterville.
And that's in the water as well, or is it safe to say they could hunt halfway into the river to be safe, or?
No, I mean, that's gonna be in the water, I mean, at that point. Now, the flip side of that is gonna be, you get over on the other side of the river, or the Wood County line basically is the center line of the river. So the Wood County line, that's basically township. So the center of the river is technically in Wood County, in the township, where they could technically legally hunt in the township. So,
So yeah, I'm seeing a lot of faces out there because that has not been the case for a while. Yeah, I'll let you guys go, Dan. But that hasn't been the case for any of those guys for the long time. People have been hunting basically in their backyard. They're waking them up. They're being woken by gunshots. Waterfowl found in the yard full of pellets. I know there's been a deer found in a front yard with an arrow in it. You know, just a lot of stuff, and that would be this side of the interurban bridge. So,
and those folks are hunting on the Lucas County
On the
side
Waterville
and the
side.
Waterville side.
Waterville side, yeah.
But downstream of the interurban bridge.
Downstream of the interurban
town.
bridge, yeah. So,
Literally.
and just to talk about the zoning for a little bit that I brought up, I know there's, like, you have different zones and the lines are, it's kind of difficult to know where the zone A is and the zone B. Does any of that come into the city limits, or is it the city regulations that determine, you know, where they can hunt within the city limits? But we can't, Joe, am I wrong? You can't hunt in the city limits, right? No. And you can't shoot if you're in Wood County side, technically you can't shoot towards the houses either, is that? Well, when I say that, I mean like shooting up.
Across the river.
Yeah,
Correct. I mean, if the animal, or, you know, is on the Lucas County side, they could not legally hunt onto that side of the county line there.
okay.
That's gonna be the separation, you know, and, you know, quite honestly, we can draw a line, you know, in the river.
I get it, yeah.
But in reality, some of this has to boil back to the hunter's ethics. You know, we can't stress that enough to these hunters. They gotta use good judgment. You can put these lines in the river and all this, put this in play, but, you know, they have to be able to make good decisions. And unfortunately, everybody has a lot of resources at their fingertips today, unlike, you know, 20 years ago,
Yeah.
where you have to go look at a map, and there was a lot more hoops to jump through. And now, when they have it at their fingertips, they're, well, I can do it, so I'm gonna do it. And it might not look good in the public's eye. So, you know, that's where sometimes it's tough for us to enforce these regulations. I mean, because they are in the right, they can legally be there. There's not any reason that it can prohibit them from doing that. So, you know, and I think that's the biggest thing there too.
I think what you're saying is music to quite a few people's ears out here, because we do have people that are hunters that are walking along the river's edge that are hunting, you know, right there. So I would like to open the door to some of the citizens that came to ask a lot of questions, if there's anybody that would like to ask anything.
If you do, please go to the microphone and state your name and address.
Hello, neighbors. My name's Dan Francoeur, and we bought at 179 South River Road. We've been there about 5 years. So my question would be, number one, I was standing next to the pond looking down, and there's a duck blind that guys had built, and there's 3 guys hunting there, and they need to practice more. Bang, 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 and no geese fell. But anyway, Granger Island's right across from us. And on the, if I'm looking at the map correctly, the county line is on the east side of Granger Island now. So these guys were standing about midway of the pond, if you can visualize the pond down the hill.
At Waterworks Park.
At Waterworks Park, and there was 3 guys there, and blazing away. So that shot's gonna fall on Granger Island. Well, this time of year, there wouldn't be many people over there. But I gotta think they're using 12 gauge magnums with number 4 shot, and that's gonna carry a ways. So my question, I guess, to you guys is, can they possibly do that on, that's city property, for one thing. And when I asked the guy, I says, are you supposed to be doing this? And he says, well, DNR said it's a park, we can hunt here. And I'm going, yeah, I don't think so, but I'll check it out. And it didn't make a fuss or anything, so I went on my way. And then a week later, I walk my dog over there every day, and here's a guy dressed like a trapper, like I used to dress, running traps in the streams around where I lived with boots and everything. And I'm thinking, geez, I hope my dog don't find a trap. You know, with the snow, I can find them, but usually they hide them pretty good. Now, I don't know if he was trapping or not, but here's one person coming up from the woods behind the pond, and it just looked to me like, now I've got to ask, can you set, you're not supposed to use leg holds anymore. You're supposed to use like conibears or whatever, but body traps, but I don't want my dog getting in there or my foot. So anyway, the question would be, can anybody hunt Granger Island or trap Granger Island, which is now County Metro Park or Metro Park? And according to their regulations I looked up, that's a no-no. So
Yeah, so on Granger Island, that is, Little Metro Parks property. They own that property.
oh, I'm sorry.
Nope. So they would actually be, that would be in their jurisdiction. So, you know, if there's people hunting on Granger Island, the Toledo Metro Parks, their rangers would need to know that.
Okay.
Now, there's times where we work with Toledo Metro Parks where we'll get involved with them at that point and help them or assist them, but usually all those types of complaints are gonna go through them first and then on to us if need be.
And clearly the guys that were hunting in Waterworks Park from the bank, they were misinformed.
So, and kind of go back to the questions that we get, that Officer Ulrich gets, and all us wildlife officers get across the board. Whenever we're dealing with cities, municipalities, our stance is, you know, if they ask us questions in the township, we tell them they can hunt in the township. And then when it falls back into a city, municipality, village, what have you, then we put that burden on them. They need to do their research and figure out if they legally can hunt in those municipalities. So that's on the hunter. Basically, that's their responsibility at that point to figure that out.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Next.
My name is Jim Walker, and I live at 385 South River Road, and we've been there since 2007, and I'm one of the people who have expressed my concerns to Todd. There's this little tiny island, I mean tiny island, that if the river's up, it's not an island, and it's right off the shore of our property. And there's people that are always duck hunting there. My concern is I don't mind if people hunt, if they eat their food, they're just going out to shoot and stuff, go target practice. But my concern is when I'm back there sometimes working, because the river floods and brings up stuff on your yard, so your endless job of cleaning it up, and they're shooting right behind you. Now, you told us they can hunt towards the Wood County side. They're putting their decoys on the south side of that little strip, which is a no-no. So I guess what we have to do is call the police then to bring it up. Because I have grandkids, and they're at the age now where they like to go down there and explore around the banks and that. They don't have a problem with shooting their guns there when the kids are down there. one time I was down there just doing work, and I didn't even see them there. And when they started shooting, I jumped and turned around, and they're just shooting into the water. There's no ducks, no geese. They just must have been bored and wanted to shoot their guns. And I'm like, the price of ammunition, they must be idiots. But I don't enjoy that. I don't enjoy that disrupting the peace and quiet, because you see them coming from the park, because our bedroom faces that park. You can see them coming over at like 5 in the morning, searchlights everywhere, and they get on the island, and just a crack of sunlight, and it sounds like World War III going on back there. It's not 1 or 2 shots. It's like 3 guys just shooting off their whole guns, and that's my only complaint. Is to be more respectful for ours property, that we like it to be peaceful. We like it to be safe for our neighbors and our kids. And we do own the property up into the water a little bit. Be respectful of that. If you're not allowed to do it, don't do it. And so I guess thank you for you guys coming here, because it answers a lot of our questions. I knew there probably wasn't a lot we could do, but I wanted to voice our concern, and that it's kind of a nuisance, especially that early in the morning, and that. And we have 2 dogs that are just, one's a golden retriever, can you imagine that? Deathly afraid of gunfire and that. So our life is miserable when they're hunting and stuff. So that's all I have to say.
So
Thank
Jim,
you.
it actually sounds like their island is being it's on this side of the river. Technically, they shouldn't be hunting from that island, correct?
I was gonna say, it's just a little tiny
Where's it exactly at?
385 South River Road.
But Miltonville,
Miltonville Park is straight across
so
from
straight
it.
across, yep.
But this little island is closer to the Waterville side. In fact, if you're using Ranger Island as a halfway point, it's on the south side. So, I just tell my wife I threaten every year to go down there and weed whack all those weeds down, but then I'd probably get in trouble for destroying state property.
And I've actually learned, I believe, with a pump carries 5 shells and a semi 3 shells, but you're only allowed to shoot 3 shots at a waterfowl. Is that correct?
So if you are waterfowl hunting or migratory bird hunting, your shotgun can only be capable of holding 3 shells, regardless if it's a semi-automatic or a pump shotgun. So they have to be restricted down to 3 shells only in the gun. So there's a 1-piece filler that you put in the shotgun, so it's restricted down to 3 shots.
I'm going to go off on a tangent here, and I know someone's going to laugh at me out there. So I believe with waterfowl, you're only allowed to use steel shot because you don't want to.
Yeah, steel or non-toxic, correct. Yep.
But in walleye season, everyone uses lead, and how many?
Well, the big thing is why they have that restriction in place. So like when the shot, rains down into the water, ducks will actually ingest that, and that's what ultimately the lead would affect the ducks at that point.
Okay, that makes
Because
sense.
they're ingesting it.
Yep.
The big, lead sinkers that they're using when they're fishing, obviously that's a lot larger, so they
Yeah,
would not
yeah.
tend to ingest that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so.
Citizens, anyone else? Well, we thank you for stopping over here.
Hopefully that answers your questions. I mean, we're just trying to, there's a large resource there, and we want the hunters to, follow, the local ordinances, state, regulations, and we kind of work with the local law enforcement agencies. If they're having issues with hunters, then we can, assist them any way that we can. So, we don't want to close access down. Access is very limited to hunters, but they also need to understand, if there's local ordinances, they need to follow those local ordinances, and that's what we push as an agency. They have to check with the local authorities where they're hunting, and the responsibility's on them. So,
Mayor, I had a question,
Yes, sir.
of course.
Hey, Counsel.
Sorry.
Go ahead, sir.
And I'm not a hunter, Josh, so pardon my ignorance, but the island really isn't that large, width or length, I don't think. So I'm just wondering, if they're shooting on the island, where does it go? Where does the shot go? Is it, they're not shooting towards Waterville, for example, are they, or are they?
I guess, are you referring to Missionary Island?
Yeah.
Missionary Island's very thick. There's a lot of understory, a lot of growth out there. The hunter, there again, he is responsible. Anytime they pull a trigger on a gun, they are responsible for that projectile. You know, if there is damage to property, if there's damage to, you know, human life, what have you. I mean, anytime they make that decision to pull that trigger, they need to be mindful of what is, you know, beyond their target. That's why it's required in the state of Ohio to go through a hunter education course. So every hunter that hunts in Ohio, they are required to have a hunter education course. If not, they have an apprentice hunting license where they have to be with somebody that is a licensed, you know, hunter in the state of Ohio. So there are some restrictions there to eliminate those types of actions or events. Can't say it always eliminates them, but when you look at the number of hunters that are in the field every year and the number of accidents that occur, I mean, we're talking, you know, usually less than, you know, one hand. So very limited number of accidents, and that's a lot of the education for the people out there hunting, making sure that they get through the hunter education course. So there are things, but they are responsible for where that projectile goes.
Thanks.
Council, anything else?
Just one last question. In the event that someone is hunting out by Waterworks Park or our place, do we call you guys, or do we call?
Call 911 and get the local officers to respond.
Ooh, 911?
And the other thing too, like if you guys, you know, feel that there's wildlife violations being committed, you know, on top of just, you know, hunting inside the city limits, wildlife violations that are occurring, 1-800-POACHER is who you'd contact to reach the wildlife officer. That's our communication center in Columbus. So that's what that number's there for. So yeah.
All right, there was another. Scott, you want to go to the microphone, please?
Scott Johns, 1207 Applegate. Just a general question. When you guys issue license, do they get a pamphlet that tells them where all these zones are and where the no hunting and hunting? And is that readily available to the hunters? I'm just...
Yep, that's a good question. So this is our hunting regulation digest. As you can see, it's a very condensed version of our regulations throughout the state. If we printed every law regulation that is on the books, we'd have a book like this we'd have to hand out. So this is a condensed version. We let that be known to all the hunters out there that this is, you know, just a summary basically of the laws. As far as different zones, so for waterfowl hunting, we have the north zone, we have the Lake Erie Marsh zone, we also have the south zone. So the south zone, there's a line basically not quite in the center of the state, it's north of the center of the state. Anything south of that in Ohio is going to be in the south zone. Everything above that is going to be in the north zone, excluding the Lake Erie Marsh zone. So the Lake Erie Marsh zone is basically, you know, all of Ottawa County, part of Lucas County out by Howard Marsh, you know, the Sandusky or the Maumee Bay there.
I was thinking more in general, more localized. So if, like, say out here in Waterville, the islands, it shows the islands.
Right.
No hunting here on this side, that kind of thing.
Unfortunately, we cannot publish that just because there's so many different municipalities across the whole state. But there are several different apps that folks can use as hunters now. OnX app is a big one that they can use. It shows them exactly where they're at. It shows them who the property owner is. Is it in city limits? I mean, it shows you a lot of information, but it's not a definitive line of you can hunt here, you can't hunt here type thing. That's kind of more or less on the lines of their own research that they need to do on their own to be able to determine that.
Okay.
Yep.
Then just to close by saying thank you, and I took some notes, and Scott sort of alluded to one of my questions or comments, but maybe I would invite you, Mike and Josh, to get with Joe if there's any funding or any resources that your local or state office has that we could maybe put something together for Waterville. Sure. That would be probably a big help to our citizens and to our community. So we thank you very much. Officer Mike, you came here. Did you want to make a comment? That's-
Obviously, I'm your local officer here in Lucas County, so if you got questions, by all means, give me a call. I can give you a business card, if you can put that out somewhere.
You'll put it in the minutes. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
We're a partner. We like working with our community members, and certainly this is great. Todd, thanks for setting this up. Joe and John, thank you. Hey, guys, you're welcome to stay, but you can leave.
It's, yeah. Thank you for coming, I really appreciate it. Yep. Thank you guys for coming. Yep. Here. You want to snap a picture of it? Oh, yeah, I would show Josh. I would definitely show Josh and Joe.
I can do it at Farnsworth, but I can't do it at Waterville.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, thank you, Mike.
Thank you again. Alrighty, we will continue on with our meeting. So,
You can have it. It's all yours.
alrighty, we will continue with our meeting. And I would ask, with the approval of the minutes, council, we've had a chance
Give one
to,
Dan, too.
Thanks. Thanks for coming.
Sorry.
council had a chance to receive and review the minutes. Need a motion to approve the minutes from January the 8th, 2024.
So moved.
Second?
Second moved, Todd moved, and John Rozak seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next is citizens' comments. We had some participation on this particular topic. I do not have any other citizens that requested to speak, but I'll open it up if you do now. Okay, we will move on. By the way, nice sound system, eh? Thank you to our voters, our citizens, for helping us fund this new sound system. John, thanks for setting it up. Sounds good. Next is staff reports, and I'll ask our administrator to lead us with staff reports.
Thank you, Mayor. Council has a copy of my report. I did want to mention that I have been working with the Fallen Timbers Recreation Club. I think council's aware that they did receive a grant of $275,000 from the state of Ohio for improvements to their clubhouse and their concession stand. So since they received a state grant, there's certain public bidding requirements that they have to follow. So I've been working with them on that. And if I haven't mentioned it, in exchange for this state financial assistance, they have to open up the club to the public in Waterville. So a couple of the things that they'll be doing when they finish their project, building rental would be open to the community, and that would be $25. Access to the pool would be $10 a day or $5 after 4 p.m. You could get a one-day pass for the pool, $10 each on any day, but there would be a 5-day limit, and then there's also a $250 season pass to the tennis courts. So after they complete their improvements to their facility, then they would have to offer this to the public. The next item I wanted to mention is, I know we discussed the ice rink. We have a portable or a seasonal ice rink that we're looking at, and we ordered that, and it did come in today. So it's here, and we'll start work on that. So if council has any other questions.
Council, I'll start with Anthony Bruno.
Real quick on the back to the pool. What's the price per season pass? Did he tell you what the
For
season
the pool
You
or the
said-
tennis courts?
Oh, that was for the
Yeah,
tennis
yeah, the tennis courts, it would be a season pass, $250.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was my question. Sorry.
Good.
I thought you were talking about the pool for a minute there.
Councilman Rozak.
No, thanks, Mayor. No questions.
Wayne Wagner.
No questions.
And Mr. Garver? Back from his vacation. Welcome back.
Thank you. John, can you talk a little bit about what you discussed with the Department of Transportation regarding future improvements around the city?
Well,
Speak to that a little bit.
a shared use path that is going in next year, so that's a project that we got $295,000 grant for. So that project will start from Mechanic north on the trail all the way up to Canal Road. So we have to do certain things before we can put the project out to bid. Another thing is that the city's looking at adding a center turn lane on Waterville Monclova Road between Prairie Boulevard and 64 Michigan there, and we've been doing some survey work, so we have to submit environmental reviews to the state, things like that. So we're getting ready to finalize those two projects. The shared use path starts in 2024. The widening of Waterville Monclova starts in 2025.
Thank you.
Todd?
All good, thank you.
Mary?
Nothing, thank you.
And real quick, I did want to mention, I know we did have the officers here from the ODNR, but section 50511 is the city ordinance which prohibits hunting in the city limits.
Thank you. Just a comment on Fallen Timbers. I just want the citizens and folks to know this is another partnership. Matt Flagger, the president of Fallen Timbers, and I met over a year ago, and actually Parks and Recreation met Barb Bruno when she was with us, and as a result of this, this organization found some funding from the state of Ohio, and thanks to them, they brought it forward, and I know they're going to be looking forward to partnership with the city, and I know they're planning some other funding requests later on. So thanks to the Fallen Timbers team and leadership, and they also helped out with other things in our community. Alrighty, then I will move on to our law director report.
No report.
Okay, finance director. Treasurer Steve Schultz sent me a message. He is out of the office, if you will, on vacation, but he did tell me he did not have a report, except that the reconciliation of 2023 with John is in process, so we'll hear more about that next couple of meetings. Next, police chief.
Evening, Mayor and Council. Sure, I'll have a copy of my report. A couple things to add. Officer Derek Williams and Abe Stoudemire are off of FTO and out on their own now. Want to give a big shout out to Ken Blair and his staff for the roads, streets looking very good during the icy and snow conditions. One more thing is I appreciate the residents coming here tonight to talk about the hunting situation. We don't see a lot of stuff that goes on along the river, and you guys are our eyes and ears, so don't feel like you can't reach out and call us. If you call 911, they have call takers now that will direct it and prioritize that call. So if you call 911, it's not going to be taking the place of somebody in Toledo that is being held at gunpoint or something like that. So don't worry about that aspect of it. We do have budgeted in our capital budget for a drone. I think that drone will come in handy during hunting. We can fly that and kind of see the middle of the river. And the new drones now have GPS in them, so we can gear that towards the parameters we want to set. So I think that'll come in handy. I think that's in next year's budget, I believe. So that will be a good tool to use. Other than that, I have nothing else.
Questions for the chief? I just have a comment, Joe. I obviously was reading the report, and it's nice to see many of our officers participating in Shop with the Hero back at Christmas time. And I know that the kids enjoy that, I'm sure, and certainly the police officers will thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Next is our fire chief.
Hey, Joe, thanks for setting that up.
So in true fashion, I won't beat him on that. You have a copy of my report tonight. Other than that, I'll take questions December with all of the holidays and things, it was a little bit lighter month. But other than that, I'll take questions.
So, council, I have a couple comments, but I'll go around the room. Start with Vice Mayor Duncan.
Nothing tonight?
Thank you. Todd?
Nothing?
Anthony?
I've got one. I noticed we had an increase of 115 runs from last year. Not being on council previously, is this kind of standard or normal or out of the norm?
So no, that's pretty much in the norm. I think we were 2% higher than past years total. 2% isn't a massive increase. It is an increase, but population is growing. The apartments are getting finished over at Steedman. Large, condensed populations tend to bring a little bit more runs. That's things that we try to keep our eye on. But other than that, it was fairly typical increase. We have never had a year where we've stayed flat or went down. So every year it will go up. We're expected to go up this coming year as well.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I just have a comment. I did have a chance through the holidays, just before Christmas and afterwards, stop at the fire department. Always good to stop and see the guys, and even got a cup of coffee. I did pay for it. There's a little jar there, so it was good. And thank you for keeping us safe. Alrighty, thanks.
Mayor, I might jump in here, although this would have been part of my comments, but John and I and Doug, of course, and Nick Sargent attended the fire co-op meeting on January 11th. And fire co-op is very well established, proceeding very well, everything's in good shape. But I did want to mention, we spent a lot of time talking about the new EMS, ALS, Advanced Life Support structure that the county is imposing on municipalities around the county. And it's not quite in place yet, I don't think, Doug, but the contract isn't quite final. John, is that right? Or yeah, okay. We are in the southwest quarter of the county. Actually, it's the fifth of the county. Toledo is part of the county. And the summary is that Waterville will be tasked with providing EMS service, ALS, Advanced Life Support, along with White House in our region. And in return, the county will provide Waterville and White House with about $400,000 a year to cover the expenses of the ALS. Oops, sorry. So it's in the works. I think it's pretty close to final, and I just wanted to have council prepared that $400,000 will have to be used to provide equipment as necessary, and of course personnel.
And did they commit to a length of time that they will provide the $400,000? Or is it just a year? Did they say it was for 2 years?
No, I don't think the contract has a term.
It's a 3-year agreement, and it has an evergreen renewal, so they could keep renewing it.
Okay.
But they could always decide after the 3 years to give notice and say, you're on your own, Waterville and White House, and we'll pick up the cost. So
And
hopefully
that
that doesn't happen, but, that could. But initially it's 3 years, and then it's got an evergreen that unless it's canceled or someone gives notice to cancel it. then-
Okay, great, thank you.
That's what I meant, Mary, when I said the contract doesn't have a term, because the county can cancel it at any
Yeah,
time.
basically.
So the evergreen, is that annual then, every year, or is it another 3 years after the third?
Should be-
It's the first 3 years, and then they
Then
can
we'll see.
decide whether,
Yeah. And they
you
gotta
don't,
build it.
Okay.
it'll renew automatically. But we'll be looking at that at meetings in February. White House is looking, they have almost a brand new council, so they're kind of getting up to speed on that and what's going on there. So we'll probably bring that contract forward next month for
Okay.
you to look at.
Great,
Awesome.
thank
Thanks,
you.
John.
Doug, do you have anything to add? Doug, that's why I interjected that here.
I mean, the only thing that I'll add on that, and Mr. Gokenauer and I are already currently working on that, and we'll continue to work on that, to bring Mr. Garver and yours together. So the run volume that's going up, to guarantee the contract, it's not necessarily the run volume that's going up that we're concerned with. It's the run volume inside another run volume that's going up. So it was very rare that we'd get an EMS run and then an EMS run. That is slowly increasing over time, and we're trying to find a really good way in the new software to track it. because we're finding out, like Oregon found out that it was like 45% of the time there was an EMS run inside an EMS run. So now instead of having one rig at operational readiness, you actually need two. We're probably approaching, and again, we're going to try to track it, we're probably approaching 20 to 25% that we're starting to see stack up.
Yep.
So we know, like today, we stacked 2 up at the same time this morning. Last night we had 5 last night in the middle of the night, and they were all 1 hour apart, so it was barely enough for the rig to get back into service. Remember the long transport times? That with St. Luke's gone, it takes about an hour for a rig. So it was getting back into town and it was going right back out. That's why the second rig for the contract will be imperative, because we'll have to make sure that when the first one's out, we got a second one.
Yep.
So, but
Got
we're working on that, been working on that, we'll continue to work through that, we'll make it happen.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. Thanks, Doug.
Thanks, Doug.
Next, our Public Works Director.
And Kenny, talk into the microphone. They can't hear us at home. Can you talk right into that microphone?
Right.
Thank you so much.
Council, thank you, Mayor, Council. You have a copy of my monthly report. I really don't have anything to comment on that, but you also have a copy of our year-end report. If you glance through there, there's items on the water break, sidewalk program, all the purchases and projects that we did throughout the year. More of an informational thing for you all. If you got any questions, that's all I got tonight.
Council? I have a couple, but I'll wait till council. All right. I think it's already been said, thanks to you and your team for the snow removal.
Yeah, thank you.
You had enough salt, right? I trust
Yeah.
you had enough salt. Yeah, we haven't used that.
We got enough salt.
That's all I have. So thank you, Kenny.
Thanks, Ken.
Thanks, Kenny.
Thank you. Next is communications from council members, and I will start with Vice Mayor Mary Duncan, and like she said, speak into the microphone.
Nothing this evening, Mayor.
Okay. Todd?
No report tonight, thank you.
Anthony Garver?
No report tonight, sir.
Wayne Wagner?
No report.
John Rosick?
I gave my report. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay.
No report, Mayor.
Thank you. All righty. I don't have anything else to add to what was already mentioned. All right, next is some old business. This is ordinance number 1323, an ordinance adopting the annual appropriations for the municipality of Waterville for the fiscal year ending December 31, 2024, and repealing ordinance number 1423 and declaring an emergency. The first reading was held on December 11th, 2023. The second reading and public hearing was held on January 8th, 2024. Third reading and legislative action is scheduled for tonight, January 22nd. I'm going to offer a few comments before we open it up for John Gokenauer's. So, as I mentioned earlier, the staff just recently closed the books, if you will, in 2023, and literally they're going through that with a fine comb to find out what needs to be done to adjust the current budget. So having said that, my recommendation is to not decide this tonight, because John will come back to us in the next meeting or two and mention these funds weren't spent or these funds need to be spent yet, and that will allow us to finalize 2024. So having said that, I will ask John to make some comments, and then council, you're welcome to ask his questions as well. John?
Thank you, Mayor. I guess as the mayor said, we just recently closed December 2023, so we're finalizing our actual 2023 revenue and expenditure balances, and then we're going to incorporate those into the final 2024 appropriations. So our ending balances minus our current carryover expenses equals our beginning balances for 2024.
Okay. Council, questions or comments? Are we in a concurrence that we would hold off on voting for this tonight?
Just to be sure, this is not unusual that we wouldn't act on this before, at this point, until you have the final numbers from 2023, and this might go into you know, second meeting in February, even in
Right.
March.
And that's one of the reasons why we passed that emergency legislation at the end of December to allow us to keep the books and the doors open for the first few months in January, or in the new year. Plus, it would allow us to consider, guess what?
More streets?
More street money. We could, we'll see.
More alley money,
More alley money too,
Yes.
all right.
We
All right,
have
so
to
we,
do that alley.
not alimony, alley money.
all right,
Oh, boy.
moving on. Next on the agenda is new business, and this is a resolution number 0224, a resolution authorizing the municipal administrator to award a contract to Midwest Contracting for Parker Square Phase 3 improvements. John, would you expand on that, please?
Thank you, Mayor. As council's aware, we've been working on our last phase of Parker Square Phase 3. We did receive 4 competitive bids, and our low bidder was Midwest Contracting, and their bid was $788,326.40. As I mentioned in the council report, that our budget estimate that we used to establish our capital budget for the park project was $650,000. The mayor asked me to kind of take a look at this again, and I guess
I had help, John. I had help, I'm telling you.
there's 2 approaches. Well, I guess there's 3 approaches that we could go with. The first approach is, since it's over the cost estimate, we'd reject all the bids, and then we would rebid the project, which would make the construction schedule, lengthen that out, and we might not be able to get done before the end of the construction season. I also provided council with some items to non-perform in the bid. So by non-performing certain bid items, we could lower the cost. We would be under the construction estimate and the budget, and it would remain within the budget that we established for this project. The third option is that we could, this is our legal expenditure option, I guess. The city can spend up to 20% over the bid estimate, so we could proceed that way, but council would have to add 20% to the cost of this project and put it in the budget for 2024. So I mentioned the $788,326 bid. Our legal limit of expenditure would be 20% over that, so we could spend up to $778,674. So we could non-perform fewer things. In the council packet, we had 10 items that were suggested to be non-performed, and if council wanted to add the 20% of the budget, then we would be able to non-perform less, essentially. So that's our 3 options. We rebid, we non-perform the 10 items that I recommended and bring the cost estimate down below the $650,000, or we proceed with adding the 20% to the budget and accept the bid.
Okay, I have just a couple comments, and certainly council will also make some suggestions. So just so the citizens know, this thing's been planned for over 5 years. Famous COVID, put some stalls on it. I'm of the opinion and the recommendation that we've got a great riverfront. You heard the ODNR talk about what a nice facility. So I'm inclined to go ahead and get as much done as possible this year. The fees did increase from years ago, and so we're up against that. But I know that also that it's possible that the estimate from the engineer and the architect could be off a little bit. We all know that things are increasing in value, but we've had a Parks and Recreation Committee look at this. Council members, this council and previous ones have been in support of it. So I'm of the opinion to move forward and get as much of it done up to that $778,000, and obviously live within the means there and get it done. And I'm hoping we get it done sooner than later. So council, I'll open it up for comments. Councilman.
So of the 10 things that you're eliminating, are we permanently eliminating those, or are we just putting them off until maybe 2025?
We
when
would,
we have more money?
the items that I selected were things that wouldn't affect the project moving forward. So if you decided to non-perform these 10 items, we could add those in next year as a separate bid. We
I'm
could do
good.
another phase.
Yep, thank you.
So
Todd?
John, the Collaborative and Proudfoot gave us that estimate, was
Yeah,
that,
a while ago.
what, how many years ago?
Well, it was a current estimate, and you know, we've noticed in our recent projects with inflation and things, the architects and engineers just aren't really catching up to the inflation in construction estimates. So you know, some of the bid items that they estimated were pretty close, but some weren't. And then, of course, a contractor can put in a bid whatever they want to do, I guess. But we, you know, we have certain limits. We have a budgetary limit, and then we also have, I guess, a legal spending limit that we can't exceed on a publicly bid project.
Okay.
So this is probably for you and Katie. The estimate came in at 650. 20% would put us at 780, and the lowest bid was 788.
Yep.
And we've worked with, let me see, the lowest bid was what company?
Midwest.
Midwest. We've worked with Midwest before.
Yes.
So I don't know, being the bids are in, can we go back to Midwest and say, will you do everything for 780? Or
Well,
is that,
what we can do is you can non-perform things. You can't renegotiate each bid item because it was a sealed bid. So you either have to non-perform it or accept it or reject the bid. So if we non-perform a bid item, we're not changing that. We're deciding not to do it.
okay.
And Midwest Contracting is agreeable to non-performing the items that were in the council packet.
Nice.
And that's not to say they wouldn't agree to, you know, spending more as well, but they have agreed to that, and but you can't renegotiate each bid item price. It either has to be you accept it or you don't.
Right.
I mean, I think everyone knows how the inflation has been the past few years, so I don't think it's 20%. Yeah, okay. Fine.
So I guess to make it simple, I mean, if you would want to go, you know, up to the 20%, for example, if you non-perform the benches, that's listed, that would be an easy one. We could put that in the budget next year, or, you know, and we could also look at maybe cheaper benches, but that would be an easy one that doesn't affect the, you know, the construction. We don't have to rip up anything that we build this year. We could non-perform the benches, and that would bring you under the limit of the 20%. You wouldn't go over the 20%, and that would be a simple way to go forward there. So.
benches.
All right. Todd, anything else?
No, all good, thank you.
Anthony Garber.
Just a couple of things, John. You know, I think this is going to be certainly a signature piece for Waterville that other communities will certainly envy, with all the hard work that's been put into this. You know, and as we look at the budget and find, say, if we have some money left over from next year, I think this would be a great opportunity to use that money. Again, this has been 5 years in the planning, and I'm sure the citizens would like to see this get done.
Right.
As I'm sure everybody here on council would also. So that's all I have.
Good. Wayne?
Nope, no concerns.
John Rosick.
Just a couple things, Mayor. Is the drawing, is this what we had approved
Yes.
originally? Or?
Yes. You know, and the drawing was just to kind of give you an idea. If we chose to non-perform certain items like, you know, the flags, the piers, you would have an idea where those are and where those wouldn't be.
Well, in terms of non-performing, if that's where we're headed, I would not favor not performing the flags or the lights for the flags. I think no matter what we do, we should have flags there. And what is a planner for $25,000 each? What kind of planner is that, John, exactly?
Well, That's the thing about, you know, this isn't like a straightforward, like a road project or something where it is what it is. These are kind of specialty items, and that's kind of where you see the markups are on the flagpoles and the planters and the benches.
That's a very special planter. I would
Right.
say.
So that's that, and then you have to hire a lot of subcontractors, you know, brick, masons, cement, irrigation, landscaping, lighting, electrical contractors. So there are a lot of subcontractors involved too, and I think that played a little bit into the cost as well, but, that's kind of where we are there. But any of the items in the non-performance, recommendation, again, those wouldn't result in us tearing up anything to put those in. You could put in the, flags on those are on the edge of the, plaza. The electrical, it runs on the edge of the plaza. You could tie that in, fairly easily.
Well, I mean, just right off the top of my head, I could see eliminating everything except the flagpoles and the lights for the flagpoles. At this point, that's what we have to do. And that way we don't have to add the 20% to the budget.
Okay.
But
Yep.
just my thought that's my thought without thinking about it. In detail.
Anthony?
Well, being on Parks and Recreation, I have to say I'm not interested in reducing anything. To put it that way, I want it to be done right from the beginning, and that way we don't have to go back at it, because things are just going to become more expensive, really. The only thing that I was going to ask, though, you had made mention about the benches. So when is after this is approved, what's the time frame as to when they're going to start this and when they're going to end this?
Well, they would, spend the winter months getting materials ordered. The engineer, the architect would check what they ordered against what we spec'd in the bid, and we would start construction probably in April.
Okay.
And the idea would have all the, substantial completion done by August. So it would be finished for the roche de boeuf. The sign and some of the specialty things, those might have to be put in later on, but they're not going to affect the public's use of the park. I think in August it would be usable, it would be safe, we could have events there, even if some of the items weren't in yet.
Could we get the benches in at that time?
Well, we could certainly try. I think we could. I think that's probably a pretty straightforward item to order
Okay.
those.
Well,
Have we talked to Rotary about the benches? I mean, they had talked about wanting to do something about the benches. So if we took the benches out, approved the budget, did as much as we could, had a conversation with Rotary, I think it wouldn't be a bad thing to just take the benches out, do the rest, talk to Rotary, yes or no, and then if the benches are still not done, then we'd just do them first thing in '25.
Or I was thinking the same path, Mary, but what about somebody donating? Like,
Well,
we
that's
could put
true.
that out there. We have 6 benches at 3,500-ish. Can we do something like that where maybe 6 businesses want to donate a bench?
One thing about the benches, they're designed to be taken out in the winter and put back in the summer. So they have to be able to be, a certain type that, and when you take the bench out, it's flush with grade. There's not a hole, there's not a gap.
Yep.
You close it up so it's sealed up for the winter and then put them back in the spring. So that's the reason for the cost.
Yeah,
They're-
but we could take the benches
Right.
out, approve the budget, deal with the benches in the spring of 2025.
Yes.
I
would think
like that idea.
That would work.
Then we would get most of the park done except the benches.
Right.
Just saying.
Any other comments?
What is a skateboard deterrent?
Oh,
Well, the
deterrent.
the architect recommended that we put those in so kids
That-
don't
Is that like a
skateboard.
speed bump on the sidewalk? Or
They'll skateboard across the top of the walls.
Oh, the walls.
So,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
But I think we could probably live without. We'll just sick Joe on him.
Yeah.
When he's not chasing the hunters away, right?
No, it's not.
So
Okay.
All right, so I think
it's
we've,
not a critical item though.
Right.
so I think we've had good discussion. I think we've got a mixed consensus. That's good. I'm gonna go back to my comment that we've been at this for a little over 5 years. I'm in I'm in favor of getting as much done as possible, even earlier than August the 1st, but I'll live with the best date we can. And I would make a motion that we not bounce the microphone. I make a motion that we pass resolution 0224, and we have a budget up to $778,000. And I'd ask the staff and the administrator to let us know in the next couple of weeks what items might be non-conforming, if you will, or not, is that the right term?
Non-performing.
Non-performing. And then, in the meantime, Anthony, or Todd Borowski got some ideas about other organizations and Mary that might come forward, but this way we get it done, we get it ordered, and we're moving forward to have a beautiful park in downtown Waterville.
Yep.
So I made a motion, need
Is
a
it
second.
78 or 78?
The spending limit would be $778,674.60.
I forgot the $674.
I
Just be clear.
I
Just be
second
clear.
the motion.
Mary seconded. Any more discussion?
And then you'll come back, John, with the final proposal.
It's getting moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, next is Resolution 0324, a resolution providing for the services of a municipal prosecutor for the city of Waterville. I would ask John and certainly Katie to comment on that resolution. John?
Well, our current prosecutor is deciding to step down in February, and we interviewed some potential candidates, and it was a recommendation of the law director and the municipal administrator to recommend the prosecutor position to Austin Clapp, and as our new municipal prosecutor, and at a rate of pay of $150 per hour.
I would just like to add that also I know our police chief had a chance to visit with Austin and concurred with that recommendation. So need a motion to accept resolution 0324.
So moved.
So moved, Mary Duncan.
Second.
Second, Todd Borowski. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next is resolution 0424, a resolution providing for the services of an assistant law director for the city of Waterville. John?
Thank you, Mayor. Even though our current prosecutor is deciding to step down, we would like to recommend that the city retain her services as assistant law director and Katie Tharp, and that would be at a rate of $150 per hour as an assistant, and then if she was assuming the law director's duties directly, it would be at the rate of pay of the law director.
Okay, so we need a motion to accept resolution 0424.
So moved.
Mary Duncan.
Second.
Second, Todd Borowski. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next is resolution 0524, a resolution authorizing an hourly billing rate amendment to the contract with Philip L. Dombey for the position of law director of the city of Waterville. John?
Thank you, Mayor. The law director is requesting an increase, and his last increase was December of 2015. It's probably long overdue, and this resolution would authorize an amendment to his contract to increase his hourly rate from $150 to $200 per hour.
The only thing I would add to it is I had a chance to obviously talk to John and talk to Phil Dombey in the last couple of weeks in concurrence with our assistant law director. And I did a little research, and like John said, have not had an increase since 2015. And if you merely did a slightly 3% increase each year, had we done that every year, as of today, he'd be at $215,000. So the request is $200,000. Excuse me, $200 an hour.
Phil would like that.
Yeah. And then the other thing is, some other municipalities, they have assistant law directors that are sort of like on staff. We only pay when our staff law director and assistant law director perform their services. So it's just paid by the hour. So
I would also add, Mayor, that the rates, and I'm not saying this because you're sitting here, Katie, but these rates are well within reason, I think, in this area.
good.
Go hire an attorney.
Thank you. All right, so we need a resolution or a motion to, we need a resolution, a motion to accept resolution 0524.
So moved.
So moved, Anthony Bruno, need a second?
Second?
Second, Anthony Garver. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. And then lastly is other information or unscheduled business. Council?
Nope.
Alrighty, then our next meeting is in February, the second Monday in February. Keep warm. Kenny, thanks for cleaning the streets. Joe, thanks for keeping us safe. And Doug, thank you. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Yeah, Wayne Wagner, and the second?
Second.
Second, John Rozek. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.